So let's start a two-part series, putting Mitch Johnson in focus, and today asking in part one, why, perhaps, maybe, it was a bad move that the Spurs promoted Mitch Johnson to the head coach.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, radio of the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope you had a great weekend. And we thank you for being back here at Locked On Spurs. You guys are the everydayers. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know where to go. Also, don't forget, leave those comments on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. We'd love to read them in a future episode of Locked On Spurs. And always, just subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Go do that right now. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at a part series today, starting with part one. And that is putting into focus Mitch Johnson. Now, y'all know he has been hired, or promoted, I guess, from interim head coach to full-time Spurs head coach. Yeah, he is Pop's successor. So we're going to be asking the question, or answering the question, why was it a bad move? And at least in part one. Now, tomorrow's show, we'll talk about why it was a good move. But today, why was it a bad move? Why shouldn't the Spurs not have gone with Mitch Johnson? And then we're going to look at the NBA playoffs. Yeah, we got 2 games tonight. They're pretty good games. We're going to discuss that and more. So, yeah, let's dive into it. Let's go to bring in our guest, Mr. Rudy Campos. Look, video, guys. We got him on video today. No audio. No cell phone. He is here live and in person. For that, we got to give his welcome. Well, yeah, we got to give you a welcome music. Keep being back on live.
It's been a while since I've had the walk-up music, but then again, you gotta be live. You can't be on.
You gotta be live. Yeah, you gotta be
on
live.
Phone or audio only.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure to follow him on X at Sweep the League. He is with Sweep the League. That's on YouTube. Make sure to go to that show right now. Just go to YouTube, search Sweep the League, hit a subscribe button right there, and then he'll talk to you about Sweep in just a few minutes. Yeah, let's give Rudy a little bit more time here with his walk-up music. Got a little energy there. A lot of, I need energy, man. I got the Mondays right now, man. Just trying to wake up, man, for today. Start of the work week. Yeah, it's brutal, man. But Rudy, we're gonna be taking on part one of a 2-part series here at Locked On Spurs, and today putting into focus Mitch Johnson and why it was a bad move. Why the Spurs maybe should not have gone the route of removing the interim tag and giving it permanent tag. Yeah, and think about this too. He is the successor. Remember the years we thought it would be Budenholzer, we thought it would be Tori Messina, we thought it would be Becky Hammond. I did not have in my bingo card Mitch Johnson as a successor to Greg Popovich. Before we get into the why it was a bad move, you have not been on since the big news of Popovich not retiring, just stepping aside from head coaching duties. What were your thoughts when the news came out?
I was not shocked at all. I mean, we kind of teased at the fact that he probably was done, and there was probably conversations they had behind the scenes, Spurs front office and Pop. So it's probably something that was already being, discussed, and then obviously going into who's going to success him. But shocking, I wasn't shocked at all. I was kind of expected. Just kind of the writing was on the wall, especially with the last incident that he had at the restaurant. It kind of just felt like, okay, I think enough's enough. He kind of realizes that, but I think I was more shocked at who the successor was, but even more shocked that it was announced the same day.
Right.
So to me, that just tells me that everything was already in place and they were going to just make the announcement right away.
Yeah. Again, I did a show about Popovich stepping aside from coaching duties, and same thing, Mike. I was asking, what was your biggest takeaway from it? I said, well, I wasn't shocked. It was a surprise. You ask anybody in San Antonio, local media in San Antonio, it was obvious. He was not coming back. You even heard little hints that, yes, he's back from the stroke, but there were still some effects of the stroke that were visible. So you got that, plus just an NBA season, his age, and so look, he's not leaving the organization. The team president, that's a huge role, so he'll definitely have a hand in the rebuild phase of this chapter of the franchise. But yeah, like you, Rudy, I was not surprised. But what was surprising was, let me rephrase this. Before we get into your thoughts on this, I also want to say I was not surprised as well that Mitch Johnson got the nod. I actually wasn't.
Mhm.
If you read the tea leaves since he's arrived in San Antonio almost 10 years ago, I believe, from his Austin Spurs duty to, let's not forget, he was with Team USA staff. That was with Popovich there too.
Mhm.
It was kind of obvious it was going to be him. But nevertheless, we got to ask the question, was it a bad move? And Rudy, you told me something before we hit the record button here. You said, yeah, it kind of was a bad move based on experience. What do you mean by that?
So based on experience, now we've got to take into the fact that if we hadn't seen the free agents out there for coaching that is out there right now, I know for a fact on Lockdown previously, I've said that if that was not the case, Mitch would probably be number one. I mean, you've already got a guy coaching the Spurs for almost a full season. So he's, getting acclimated, been with the program for a while. But for me, it was kind of a bad move knowing what coaches are out there right now. I mean, you've got Mike Malone, championship under his belt. I mean, you can go as far as Coach Budenholzer, who's got a title under his belt, former Spur guy. But you've also got Taylor Jenkins, who's had some success with younger team, obviously in Memphis. You've seen Mike Brown out there, who's a former Spurs guy, but has good repertoire with a lot of players in the league, especially one De'Aaron Fox, who is in San Antonio. I felt the veteran coaching out there outweighed the interim coaching that Mitch did. And like we've always said, it's not a disrespect to Mitch. He was kind of dealt a really hard hand at the time, taking over for somebody, like Pop, and then trying to keep the ship, squared away and, trying to make it go in the right path. But when you look at what's out there right now, coaching wise, so many successful coaches, and then also coaches that may be on the market when the NBA playoffs are done, I just felt like it was a bad move to make that decision right away. But again, it probably was a move that was already decided right when Pop said, I'm pretty much retiring.
Yeah, I hear you. The inexperience of Mitch Johnson, at least on his resume, it speaks volumes in the sense of, he doesn't really have that much experience. You mentioned guys like Malone and Brown and, Monty Williams. I mean, you're always advocating for Sam Cassell and Van Gundy. I mean, these were top-notch guys that could have taken the mantle from Popovich. And I think I agree with you. I think that was one of the big mistakes the Spurs did in promoting Mitch from interim to full-time head coach, was at least not taking a phone call. Let's talk to Mike Malone. Let's talk to Mike Brown. Let's talk to Jenkins. Let's see if we can woo Becky away from the WNBA to back to the NBA. Let's just try something, and just for not even, to cross those bridges, to just check in. Hey, Mike Malone, how would you like to coach Wemby? You did it with Joker. Would you want to do it again with Wemby? Hey, Taylor Jenkins, want to come back to the family? Hey, Becky, you've won how many championships already in the WNBA? Let's duplicate that in San Antonio. Let's do that. Obviously, Mitch and Brian Wright and all those guys, they will be speaking to the media today. Maybe some of those questions will be answered. But nevertheless, you would hope that the Spurs would not, count their chickens before they hatch. It feels like they just put all their eggs in one basket. Pick a metaphor, and I think the Spurs did it. And I think that was a little bit of a disservice. And I got two reasons why, in addition to yours, why it was a bad move. And I'll start off with the first one, is the rebuild. If you want to get the rebuild done with and over with, what better way to speed that up than bringing in an experienced coach? A Mike Malone, can you imagine a Mike Malone on this roster next season? Or whatever the free agent coaches were out there, the top quality ones, how quickly then perhaps they would have pushed the Spurs out of the rebuild. They're right there. They're coming out of it. You feel it already. The tunnel is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But a coach like that would have just propelled them out of it. Going back to Mitch's inexperience, he's likely to make some now officially rookie head coach mistakes next year. So in a way, I feel like perhaps it stalled the rebuild a little bit. You know what? Let's get your reaction to that in just a few seconds. All right, we're talking about Mitch Johnson right here on Locked On Spurs, or part one of a two-part series. Today in part one, we're discussing why it was a bad move. Rudy brought up the inexperience. I brought up the rebuild. We'll get Rudy's reaction and more right here on Locked On Spurs. Make sure to follow Rudy on X at SweetTheLeague. You want to do that ASAP. But first, I want to talk to you about BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. The world has made a lot of progress when it comes to mental health, but there's still a long way to go. Too many people still avoid therapy because they're afraid of being judged. But the truth is, taking care of your mental health should be just as normal as going to the gym or eating healthy. This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's normalize getting help and encourage everyone to prioritize their well-being. Because when people feel supported, family, workplaces, and entire communities are better for it. Hey, look, we're not just talking about big deals, right? We're talking about more than just that. It's about maintaining your mental wellness like you do your physical health. And with BetterHelp, getting started is easier than ever. It's fully online, has a network of 30,000 licensed therapists. You can switch therapists at any time, no extra cost. You can even easily switch therapists anytime, again, at no extra cost. Look, we're all better with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
I am Megatron. Do not fail me and subscribe to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. They should do that right now. I heard on the short list, Rudy Campos, your name was on that list. Spurs. Is that true?
I will neither deny nor confirm that rumor, but I will say I was approached for a coaching job. So we'll just take it up.
Interesting. The coach of the security dogs that go around sniffing the arena for bombs, maybe. But nevertheless, we're talking about Mitch Johnson, why it was a bad move for the Spurs to promote him from interim to full-time head coach. Think about this, everybody. He is Pop's successor. Whoever thought that it would be Mitch Johnson taking over the reins? Pick somebody out there from Mike Malone to Jenkins to Becky Hammond. We would understand that. But Mitch Johnson? So in the first segment, Rudy brought up inexperience. I brought up the rebuild. Let's talk about the rebuild still. So Rudy, do you think bringing in a young, 38 years old, inexperienced head coach into the fold stalls the rebuild a little bit?
That's a great question. It makes me think, because I thought about it over the commercial break. And I'm going to say that it probably doesn't stall it too much, only because as the team is rebuilding and getting better and getting younger, a young head coach would possibly be a really good thing for the Spurs on a rebuild, because if you bring in a Mike Malone, he's kind of set in his ways. And this is a factor that might be the reason why Mitch was also promoted. Again, we're talking about the wrong things, but one thing that could be a benefit for Mitch was the fact that he's already been around these guys. You don't have to bring in a whole new roster of guys to fill Mike Malone's spot, a Taylor Jenkins type of team, something like that. So I think a rebuild size, Jeff, it's probably not going to make it any worse than what already we've seen. I think it'll help it a little bit more, but I do see your point on the rebuild side, because if you get a more experienced coach, you've got already battle tested, you've got already season long tested, playoff tested, some of these guys all the way into the conference finals games. So you get all that experience, something that Mitch doesn't have. Could the Spurs be primed for a playoff push, depending on what they do in the offseason? That's remained to be determined. But if they are built to be a playoff team, can Mitch handle that type of success going into year two? That's a huge question there, considering the fact that you've got all these other coaches out there with that experience already in their resume.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the criticism aimed at Mitch Johnson has been really the in-game decision making. That brings me to my next point, why perhaps it was a bad idea, was because everybody's been saying like, whoa, he hasn't gotten a full time as a head coach. For the full season. What did he? Give him a chance. Give him a full season, and none of the surprise talk, or just for it to just bounce on his lap like that, the way it happened. I disagree. He had more than enough sample size for us to get an idea where he's going. It wasn't like Pop was coaching at the All-Star break, and then all of a sudden that's when what hit the fan and he had to go. No, this was early in the season, like in November. The season he was still young. And then Mitch got into the seat. Sure, give Mitch a couple of months, maybe 3 months, of just trying to find his way out. But we got a big sample size, not a small sample size. We got practically a full season. You mentioned the in-game decision-making. That's kind of the biggest criticism. Many fans, me, saw iffy rotations, substitutions, going with certain guys and not going with X, Y, and Z guys. I get it. He's young, but again, going back to the sample size, I think we got a big enough chunk to see that he's not quite ready yet. Not to say at that time he would not have been a good coach, but everyone was saying down the road. Nobody expected in a couple of months, and that's what happened with Mitch Johnson's situation. So I goes back to the inexperience, but also it does reflect that we did get a good chunk of the season to see what he can do, and it showed that perhaps he was not ready. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he did have a whole lot of the season to kind of prove himself. And there were moments that he did. I mean, again, there were some good moments for the Spurs. They had, if you look at the overall season, I mean, if you're saying, well, they didn't make the play-in, okay, obvious. Make the playoffs, obvious. But, I mean, if you look at the bigger picture, they did improve by 12 wins on the season. So there were some good things. But his in-game decisions, that costed them a few more wins. And, the thing is, you talked to Mitch Johnson and, during the press conferences, and you've heard him say, I made some, bonehead mistakes. And you know what? He's learning. He's a young coach. He's a very young coach. He's learning on the fly. He's trying to get used. He's trying to get his feet wet too. So the in-game decisions, the rotations were big. You and I always were stressing how a certain rotation was one of the best rotations in the NBA overall, not just with the Spurs, but in the NBA. When there was Champagne, Castle, Paul, Barnes, and Wemby, I believe that rotation was providing both defense and scoring for the team. So it's kind of like, well, when Devin came back off of injury, he started to plug Devin into more. He got away from certain rotations that were working. So, yeah, I think the in-game situations are something that he's going to have to learn. And going into this off season, he's going to be able to plan with it with his assistant coaches. And we might see a better version of him next year, hopefully so. But, the biggest question going into next season is if the Spurs come out of the gate very slow, do you potentially give him that full season still if they come out slower or worse than what they have been the last couple of years? So it's a lot to think about on why the promotion of Mitch Johnson was probably on the wrong side of the bed than it was on the right side.
Yeah. So you got inexperience, limited head coaching experience. You did get someone. I think he was an assistant coach with the Austin Spurs when they won the championship. I believe he was. Either way, as far as I think it was a head coach at a little like Division III school or something like that. It was rare. I mean, it was like, I don't remember the name of the school there, but you got fan sentiment that just feel like he's not the guy. Established coaches are out there that could have really propelled the Spurs out of the rebuild, maybe as soon as next season. So put that all together, it looking like maybe it was a bad idea for the Spurs to go with Mitch. Now, there are some eerie parallels to Popovich. Popovich came into the situation with zero head coaching experience. Popovich came into the situation in San Antonio with heavy criticism. It took a while for the Spurs fan base to warm up to him. Yes, that Popovich, it wasn't instant love for Pop. It was not. It was
Bob Hill.
Bad.
I mean, people were on that Bob Hill train, and to this day, I'll still say it wasn't fair. But hey, history, gave the Spurs 5 titles, so we'll take it.
Absolutely. But before we close out this segment, at least part 1 of this 2-part series, any other reasons you can think of why it was a bad move for the Spurs to go with Mitch?
Well, I'm going to just say that I think earlier you had mentioned that Mike Malone, Jenkins, giving them a call. I'm going to say the Spurs probably had conversations with a lot of these guys before their decision was made. They may not have liked exactly what they heard. But I think overall, the biggest concern was being stale, if that makes any sense. You kind of wanted to shake things up. You got De'Aaron Fox through a trade, which, we knew was going to happen. But then you want to go out and get free agents. Do free agents want to play for Mitch Johnson? They want to play with Wemby. They want to play with Fox. But a lot of these guys, all these smarter basketball players look and see, well, where do I fit on this role? Am I going to be third option, fourth option? I don't know if I want to be that. I don't want to cause any issue. Does Mitch even, have that fire in him to where if players are not necessarily accepting their role? Is he going to be able to, because I haven't seen the fiery side of Mitch yet. So I think when I say stale, that's what I know. If it's just going to be kind of like, just a heartbeat that's just, stale and not really going much more. And again, getting off to that slow start, you give them the whole season, you say, you know what, this isn't working. Yeah. And then you go out and miss out on some of these top coaches that are available.
Yeah. Can you think about this too? Free agents saying, I want to go play for Wemby, Fox, Rising Star Castle, and Mike Malone, a championship coach, or a Taylor Jenkins. Yeah. He guided Memphis to deep playoff runs. Then you got Mitch Johnson. See what I mean? So we'll see. Look, again, this is just part one. Tomorrow we're going to be, talking all about why it was a good reason why Mitch should have got the job. So keep that in mind. We're not here just completely around this parade. He's going to get his time in the good spotlight tomorrow. But as far as today's topic, I can get why a lot of the fan sentiment, even local media sentiment, it's like, what are you doing, Spurs? How do you go with this guy when you had that wealth of NBA coaching talent available? I get it, but we definitely want to hear what you got to think. What do you think about the situation? Why do you think it was a bad move this for with Mitch? And maybe should have gone somewhere else, or to someone else, I should say. Let Rudy know on X at Sweep the League. Let me know by leaving a comment at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. We'll read those in a future episode of Locked On Spurs. But coming up next, we're going to be discussing the NBA playoffs. Yeah, I got two big games tonight. We're going to be discussing that and more right here on Locked On Spurs with, once again, Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. But first, I want to talk to you about Monarch Money.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining online, shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Money Monarch isn't just a budget app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing all your money and you start building wealth. Look, you get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Easy collaboration, managing money with your partner smoother than ever. You can track shared or personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress, all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Right now, you want to take control of your finances with Money Monarch. Use code LOCKEDNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDNBA for half off your first year.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs. We're joined by Rudy Campos, the hidden member of the Thunderbolts. Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah. I can't ruin it for people, right? Because people haven't seen it yet. That's so yeah, I'm in the background. Yeah. I mean, I was in the void a little bit there. So
Rudy's power is that he can eat a massive amount of pancakes in under 10 seconds.
I used to. Yeah. Back in my close to 500-pound days, I used to be able to really take down a whole stack of pancakes with ease. So not anymore.
IHOP saw you coming in. They're like, whoa, sir, we're closed. We're closed, sir.
No, all you can eat pancakes there.
Yeah. Not for Rudy Campos, as I said. And all you can eat pancakes, asterisk, not for Rudy Campos, San Antonio. All right, we got a pair of NBA playoff games. Maybe the Spurs will be there next season. Hopefully, crossing fingers. Let's start off with the Eastern Conference, the Knicks and Celtics. Good luck, New York. That's all I got to say, Rudy. I mean,
well,
I'm going to give the Celtics a gentleman's sweep. I'm going to give them a gentleman's. What do you think?
I'm going to say this. I know on Sweep Little League last week, Gio and I were talking about it. This is going to be one of the better series in the second round. And
interesting.
Don't pretty much give the Celtics, the outright, gentleman's sweep. I would say that you've got to remember, Porzingis took, 5 stitches to the head. It got really physical. Jaylen Brown playing a little bit injured. Jason Tatum with a wrist injury. So the Knicks do play physical basketball, and that's the good thing. You saw the series against Detroit. If the refs allow the Knicks to be physical with the Celtics, I would say it's probably a 6-7 game series. Don't discredit the Knicks. They have the talent. It's just, do they have enough gas in the tank to keep up with Boston? Because Boston, I think, is a little deeper on the bench side. So It's going to be a great series. I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks steal game one. So I'm just going to put that out there. But I think it's going to be a bigger series than what people give credit for.
No, I think I'm gonna go. Look, New York City is my second home away from San Antonio. I lived there for nearly 20 years. Know that city in like the back of my hand. I can still tell you how to get from point A to point B in Manhattan and a subway link. But oh man, it just Boston's too powerful, man. And also too, this past regular season, the Knicks proven they couldn't beat the top teams in the East. They were like, I think, winless.
They didn't have Karl Anthony Towns though.
Mm.
He's going to be the difference maker. If the Knicks have any chance,
I mean,
Karl Anthony Towns needs to be 25 and 14.
And I don't know if he's going to give you that for 4 to 6 games.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I got the Celtics winning, but I think it's going to be a longer series than people give credit for.
Okay, so I'm giving it 5 games. What are you giving it?
I'll go 6.
Okay,
with an asterisk. For second.
An asterisk, yeah, just like the Thunderbolts with an asterisk.
Yeah, just like Thunderbolts.
All right, the second game we got today it's a big one. Nuggets and Thunder. Man, when was the last time the Thunder played? Man, they've been resting for quite some time, man.
Oh, you're on Christmas.
I know, right? But the Nuggets are coming in hot. Looks like they found their groove a bit. Jamal Murray definitely found his shot. Westbrook, as many as those bonehead plays he does, but he does a lot more good than bad of late. Joker is still being Joker. Gordon really seemed to up his game in the series versus the Clippers. I think the Thunder, of the 2 teams they could have played, this was the worst case scenario for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say this Denver Nugget and Oklahoma City, this is going to be a very good test for Oklahoma City. I think this is a series that can go 7 games.
Yes,
this would be a huge test for them.
Yep.
Give a shout out to a guy on TikTok. I follow his page every now and then, and he kind of brought up something that I was going to bring up for sweeps this week. And the 2-man game, the David Robinson, Tim Duncan era, you're starting to see a lot of that in the playoffs. A lot of these teams that are having success in the playoffs and this season are having that Twin Tower type of look. So could, Hardenstein and Holmgren be enough threat against Jokic? Probably so. But what I like about Joker is he is dominantly the best center in the league right now. Aaron Gordon's playing out of his mind. I'm going to go with Oklahoma City in 7, but it would not shock me to see Denver pull off the upset. And then Sam Presti go back into the lab, and here we go. Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, somebody coming into OKC for next year. Kind of like, the way we're seeing RDJ come in as Dr. Doom to just wreak havoc on all of the Marvel universe. So might happen this year.
Yeah, man. This is tough for me to kind of pinpoint here. I like Denver simply for their championship experience. I know the Thunder were just smoking teams left and right. Playoffs so far in the regular season. But there's something about championship battle-tested teams that should scare the you-know-what out of the Thunder right now.
Oh, yeah.
Thunder got the home court advantage, so there goes that edge. I'm going to go with Thunder in 6.
I got him in 7.
Yeah, the only thing I think of is if Denver just plays bully ball, because outside of Chet and Harkenstein, I think is OKC a big team? Because you got big boys like Gordon, Porter.
You got the other Jalen Williams. He plays pretty big. I mean, you've got guys, but nothing that I would say. I mean, Jokic can make problems for both Hardenstein and Holmgren just by himself. So I think he's going to play smart basketball to the point where he's going to get one of them in foul trouble. And that's what I think OKC needs to understand is if their defense is the same way that it's been all season, it's going to cause a lot of fits. Russell Westbrook's going to have a ton of turnovers. So it just depends on – it comes down to Jokic. I mean, can he make it a problem for these guys, which I think he can, but I think in 7-game series, I got to go with Oklahoma City. They've been the best team in the NBA all season for a reason. So I got to go with them.
I think this is going to be one of the best series in the semis.
Oh yeah,
This one might. I project some of the games are going to go like this. nip and tuck all the way to the fourth, and either Denver's just going to take over or Oklahoma City's going to take over. This is going to be where that experience really counts.
Yeah.
If a Denver team doesn't get rattled, I can see an OKC team get rattled. And also, too, SGA hasn't been SGA of late, has he? I mean, have we really seen him like really, really, really just devastate team? I mean, I guess it's only been one series and they took care of business, but I mean, he could. I don't know. I mean, SGA is still a threat. He's likely going to be the MVP of the NBA. Man, this is going to be a good series. I'm still going to go with Oklahoma City in 6.
I would definitely. I mean, I've got him in 7, and I think this is a series where SGA kind of puts to bed the whole MVP talk. I mean, he wants to come out. It's him and Joker. It's 1 and 2 in the league. It's been like that for 2 years already. So I think now's the time for him to actually show why he deserves the MVP trophy in most people's eyes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you may see him start. He may average 35, almost 40 this series. I mean, you just never know with SGA.
And Christian Braun's a pest, though. I can see Braun trying to get under his skin.
Westbrook can just cause havoc. So
Westbrook can just cause havoc.
It's just a lot, man.
He's a wild card.
Mm.
So I mean, I think OKC, they had their pick. I think they would have probably gone Clippers because I don't know. Look, it's already done and over with already. But yeah, Denver probably was the worst of the two teams that OKC. Hey, look, but I'm definitely down for a competitive series because I would have hate if it's playoffs or West Conference side, which is all OKC just steamrolling. Let's see a little competition, little good series versus a boring series. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. Tell us about Sweep. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so for Sweep the League, we're talking NBA playoffs. We went over some NFL draft grades. Obviously, NFL season right around the corner. WNBA is kicking off, so we'll get into some WNBA talk, MLB, but the best way to get to us is go to YouTube, search Sweep the League TV, where you can get all of our content, all of our shows. And, one thing I did want to say about Sweep the League is now I'll be doing some snippets for local radio again. We'll be doing some cheap seat chatter is what the promotion is called. So we'll be doing a little bit of snippets for our local radio station. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on their station. So yeah, we're just growing left and right here. So I love it.
Congratulations. Yeah. Congratulations, Rudy. See, that's why you got to follow Rudy on X at Sweep the League and subscribe to his show, Sweep the League as well. Rudy, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to come here on Locked On Spurs. Video two. Just for you being on video, we'll give you one more. Listen to how about the walk out music? You literally walked out because we're walking out of this episode of Locked On Spurs. So again, Rudy, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And thank you all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. Make sure to come back tomorrow, part 2, why the Spurs did the right thing in getting Mitch Johnson as the new head coach. So look forward to that. I believe it's going to be with Raul Dominguez. So that's who your opponent is, Rudy. You got Raul, the AP Sports guy. They'll be taking that side. So we'll be taking that side tomorrow. So, subscribe, Locked On Spurs at YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Ken5 Plus app. Again, you guys are the everydayers. Keep on coming back every single day. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.